You seem bothered by something.
How did we get here?
A CDMP TV and film presentation from Crazy D, the mind who brings you the Black Ice Chronicles, the Females DVD, and Situations DVD, brings you The Shifter. It's Halloween night at Crazy D's, and a pesky vamp is out for blood. Beware of the Shifter.
That's it. You gotta go beat it damn scram, man. Damn.
Why don't you be a doll and find me a place to change? I need a place to change my clothes before I go.
What? Don't try to hold me on the phone.
D, you been holding out on me?
I was just about to stop and help. You know I help the crackheads, D.
Some people just don't have originality with their outfits.
It's like I hear voices in my head talking to me and shit.
I saw that punk ass Charles Pippin and his cousin leaving here.
I learned the grace pose. Get your camera ready.
We're here, like we said, for trick or treat.
Crazy, what did you see? You seem bothered by something.
You see that shit?
That crazy fuck in there.
Oh, what the fuck that was for? Right. She can't stand that shit.
Well, who's the pet bitch?
Like, I
What the fuck was she need all hoes? I told her to scratch that, poke that bitch eye.
Beware of the Shifter. Be at the premiere if you dare.
Are you gonna listen to the move?
I've been out the loop since '09. Yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back to get at that, though.
Check this. I'm at the motherfucking house last night. Guess what the fuck I see?
What you see?
Shamika, what's up? Fuck you think you fucking with? It's Maxwell, bitch!
Fuck you in them shoes.
Bitch, I'm about to stomp you with these shoes.
I thought I told you to get a jump to Crazy D.
I did give it to Crazy D. You know, D, you must have seen money in that. You know, he used to produce those nudie DVDs.
Fuck you, thin man. I know you did it.
Don't let your mouth write a check, cause I will take it out on your ass. Damn, man. You serious?
I don't appreciate being roughed up by men. Or should I say, male bitches.
Yeah, you gonna work out.
And we look for young ladies like you to host them.
I look like somebody that can host your videos.
That's right. So go change, cause we ain't got all day.
Get off the house.
Really good, though. I'm doing that bullshit.
Crazy. What the hell? How you in my room?
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Community, heart,
What's going on, people? Welcome to another great episode of hashtag Observations TFR. That's right, that's the new hashtag, formerly hashtag TFR Podcast Live OB. But in the future, you will see, because it's cleaner, so you will know about hashtag TFR Podcast Live, our Sunday show with that hashtag, and with the new hashtag, hashtag Observations TFR, you'll know we'll be speaking on this show right here that comes on Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Observations by Crazy D with my special guest host, my sister Tanya M. Congress. What's going on with you? Let's test out the mic. Let's make sure everything is fine. Phone lines are open, 213-943-3358.
Well, good morning to you. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Happy Monday. I'm trusting that everybody had a restful yet productive weekend. Always got to keep it moving. Got to stay productive. Even when you're resting, got to stay productive. All right. In your mind has to stay productive. I'm doing okay this morning. Had some running around and some errands to run this morning, which I don't like starting my day off like that, but sometimes it's just necessary. So I did that, and I'm ready to go on a power and informational packed show today. Of course, I got sitting here with me, I have a bowl. Now in this bowl, let me see and put it so you can see it. So in this bowl, this is frozen fruit. It's frozen strawberries, frozen pineapple, and then on the other side here is ginger, fresh ginger. So I'm going to be munching on that while we're doing what we do today, staying healthy, keeping it healthy. That was actually like a tortilla chip and salsa bowl. I have a set of those, and so I'm using it for healthier things. But it looks like Dee's got something good over there. What you got going? How you doing today?
Well, it's a bright sunny day in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm eating on oatmeal and apple. You know, apple a day keeps the doctor away. Oatmeal keeps your blood pressure down. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Little blueberries, little raisins. Put together by the show producer, my wife Tracy.
Okay. All right.
Morning. She said, "Good morning back."
Hey, Tracy.
So, what is the show about today? Right? Episode 34 of hashtag Observations TFR. What is, you see it in the lower thirds already. Observations TFR with the hashtag, right? There's the Cash App, $sign TFR Podcast Live. Smash a few dollars on the, on that account and on Cash App, right? Now look, we want to shout out first before we get to the topic. We want to shout out to Periscope, Vimeo, FB, and of course the film review on the Film Review Live channel where you're watching us. We're simulcasting on those 4 platforms. We want to drop out to all of those people who are watching us. Make sure you smash the subscribe button, the share button, tag your friends in it, because we are going on a journey today. Episode number 34. The Fredrick Douglass Affair. That's right. the Fredrick Douglass affair. Now, what are we talking about? Fredrick Douglass, a great abolitionist, freed himself, freed himself and got to freedom in the North when he was 20 years old, right? But what are we talking about, right? Here, have we come far enough in this sojourn that as an American black man, that American black man can fight for liberation for American blacks, but love who he wants to love. Fredrick Douglass is a complicated figure as an American black historical figure. His life would seem to be a contradiction, but his work as an abolitionist, walking in the world of American black and Euro-American slavers, abolitionists, as a person of American black, American Indian, and Euro-American descent, though manifest as black, can he like what he liked, love what he loved, while fighting the power? Let's discuss. The phone lines are open, 213-943-3358. Okay, if you watched our show, which we know you did, shout out to LeBron James. He won his 4th championship, this time in the Lakers jersey, right? 2 in the Heat, 1 in the Cavs, now 1 in the Lakers jersey. Shout out to him, but that's not what we're here today for. But shout out to him because, we are from Cleveland and we follow him. Wherever team he is, that's the team we root for. Because it's about LeBron James, not that particular team. Okay, so look, because he is an Akron Clevelander, right? Okay. But that's not what we're here for, but we just had to give that acknowledgement. So, last evening at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, we had a discussion and we were reviewing films. We talked about Topsy and Bopsy. We talked about The Pickaninny. We talked about movies, and we came across and talked about The Good Lord Bird. And the writer of the book, James McBride, was in an interview, and within the book and also within the series that is on Showtime, you're going to see an interesting aspect about Fredrick Douglass's life. And McBride talked about it. And while Fredrick Douglass was married to Anna Douglass, he had a mistress, or over time, mistresses. And at one point, he had the mistress living in the house with he and his wife. Now, the way James McBride explained it, he was married to his black wife, Anna, and he had a mistress called Atalie, right? Atalie, and her last name, I'm trying to find a way to pronounce it, right? But in the series, it just, I'm just trying to find a way to pronounce it without making it seem so obviously like she was born with the name to say what she would be. So I'm just gonna say Assing, not Assing, not Assing. Now this is her name, Assing, not Assing, but Assing. But either way that you say it, it just doesn't sound too good, and it's like a manifestation. I noticed some of her people are still alive, but she was Caucasian, and I know some of her people are still alive, but Assing, I mean, that is a name. That is an Assing, like Atala Assing. But in the series, though, they kind of simplify it because she was like kind of like a second wife or a common law wife living in the house. So they say Atlee Douglass in the series to try to simplify it, to make it seem like it makes it seem like Fredrick Douglass must have been from the line of Abraham, because he had a wife, and then he had, I guess you could call it, concubines. But we're getting ready to get in. Smash the share button, smash the like button, because we're getting into it. This is an aspect of a concept and aspect of Fredrick Douglass, the free fighter, that you did not know about. 213-943-3358. They do not play this up. But so what do you have to say about this? He seems to be from the line of Abraham. You know, Abraham had Sarah. Then Sarah brought her hand servant to him, Hagar. But then Abraham had a tent full of concubines, right? So it just appears that Fredrick Douglass was living his full life as a American black man that may have had lineage, or maybe it was that his father was who sired him, who shot the, viewer discretion is advised, who shot the sperm into the slave woman who was Fredrick Douglass's mother. Maybe it was his viralness that affected him and made him do what he does. But either way, it's either on the black side or the white side, but something was going on that was very Abrahamic. What would you like to say to that?
So I'm looking at the background of this woman. She was born in Hamburg, Germany, and her original last name was Assur, Assur, but the father changed it when he converted from Judaism, or from Jewish to Christianity. And so he changed the name to Assing. I don't know which one is worse, or which one is better, but it would appear here that she was a half Jewish German journalist, a passionate free thinker, a feminist, and a vivacious intellectual, radical. She was an atheist, and a daughter of enlightenment. I need to look that up to see exactly what that means. A daughter of enlightenment, but of German romanticism and of the failed revolution of 1848. She was strong, irreverent, and courageous. And so at the age of 33, she immigrated to the United States and quickly immersed herself into political life of her raucously divided new country. Soon her work focused on slavery, and she became Germany's Negro expert. So I guess Fredrick Douglass found something attractive about her work, which is really funny to me, because there were times during that time where black women were still in some ways suppressed into what they could talk about and how free they could be as far as free thinking and all of that. And here comes this person from Germany who has all this vivaciousness and boldness and courage, and is known as the Negro expert in her country. And she's coming over and she's touting, fighting for the cause, so to speak. And he's attracted to that. There are a lot of stories like that where white women come in and capture the black man's heart with their boldness and seeming support of the cause. And they find that, I don't know if it's a mentality that pays back the slave masters, or I don't know what kind of mentality that is, but it's kind of off. It's kind of off, and it's always been a perplexing thing to me to know about, because there were plenty of black women that were doing things as well.
Well,
Okay. So we're on this emotional hamster wheel here. That's just, I just have to say, this is an emotional hamster wheel for American black women, and I would say the black diaspora, as I say it, or diaspora, if you want to sound more, diaspora, right? It's an emotional hamster wheel. This is an emotional hamster wheel. Remember, the question is, can American black man be able to fight the power but love what he loves? Now, let's put another aspect. Fredrick Douglass came out and manifest as a black man, but he is from mixed lineage, right? He's from mixed lineage, but he manifests as a black man. Now, the question about her being a Negro whisperer, I mean, that's what I call it, Negro whisperer, but in her country, a Negro expert. What was going on in Germany at that time in the 1800s? It was the rise of the foundations for Nazi Germany. And what were they learning how to do during that time? They were learning the eugenics that was happening in the United States. See, we have to tie all this together. So she is the Negro whisperer, Assing, right? That's her name. Athalie Assing. Can that's my question. Can a black man fight the power but love what he loves to love? So here's the image. This is her. This is Athalie Assing, and she but in the series, in the Good Lord Bird, her name, they're just going to say Athalie Douglass, because she was basically staying in the house at the same time as the wife. The wife is beginning to have 5 children. She's an abolitionist in her own right, but as the children started to be born, you had 5 children. Only 4 out of the 5 made it to adulthood. One of the children passed. Condolences still. What is she had to hold down the fort, hold down the home as Fredrick Douglass went out and did his thing. Now, we're used to seeing Fredrick Douglass old, right? We used to seeing him old. You know, that's how they depict him. Right? But by this image of the cover, this is who they were actually seeing. They were seeing this guy right here. You know what I'm saying? You could go search the pictures and see young Fredrick Douglass, but you see the piercing eyes, the fortitude to see his people free. This is who they were running into. And I'm going to ask again, Tanya, because we could be on this is an emotional hamster wheel for American black women, especially with what has gone on, the way that the white woman, especially here in this country, was an agent for destruction of the black male as well, and especially the black female, that there is an emotion that goes into seeing this, right? Especially when you know that the Caucasian woman here was treacherous so to the point that she was out to see the black woman destroyed. We saw 12 Years a Slave. You saw what happened with that. It was a sick game between the slave owner and the slave owner's wife, right? It was a sick game. and Lupita's character was right there in the middle. So what do you have to say to that? We have to get over this emotion to move forward, I believe.
Well, actually, in honestly, I don't have any emotion concerning it. My thoughts concerning any interracial relationship is that you love who you love. If you put yourself in a position where you meet somebody and that's just the way it is and things develop, you love who you love, but just make sure that it's not for reasons that are just outside of love. Any other kind of prefab conditions that is outside of love. I mean, yes, the answer to the initial question is yes, you can fight for the cause and love who you love, despite there be many opinions to the contrary. Many people will question your loyalty, and many people will question that only based on what you may present as the reason why you're with that person. If you just met that person and y'all fell in love, y'all just clicked, that's one thing. But if you have any other thing in your mind and reason where you see a benefit to being with this person or anything like that, that's where it becomes a problem. And that's where the question would come in at, and that's where the concern would come in for me, because it's like, well, it's not no different scale between women. So you would say that you be with a woman who was able to identify with your cause, and it seems in this case she was identifying with his cause, and she was an abolitionist like he was an abolitionist. Now I don't know what religion he practiced, as she was an atheist, so there might have been some issues there, but apparently not. He was with her 28 years. This affair lasted 28 years, so their religious differences must not have come into play unless they were the same. But yeah, you can love who you love and fight for the cause. You can.
Who you love and fight for the cause. Okay, here's the next question. Because he's from mixed lineage, right? He manifests as, look up the word manifest and give the definition of the word manifest real quick. It's very important that we have these definitions out for people to see what we're talking about. Manifest, what does it mean? So that people will have a understanding, middle standing, and overstanding of what we are talking about, right?
So it's display or show. This is as a verb. It's a display or show, in parentheses, a quality or feeling by one's acts or appearance, or to demonstrate. So it's coming into fruition, basically.
All right, so he came into fruition looking because his mother had strong genes, and we've talked about dominant and recessive genes. If you took biology 101, they taught you that. Dark hair, dark eyes, dark hair, dark skin, dominant gene. Recessive gene, light hair, light eyes, pale skin, recessive gene. That's science, right?
Mm-hmm.
He manifests as a black man, right? He manifests as a black man, and Tracy Latrice said, "Sister wives," with a smiley face. And then she says, "Are they Mormons?" Okay. So look, he manifests as he manifests because he has that Caucasian in him. I'm asking you, does that afford him a certain allowance to be able to be with someone who appears to be outside of his race? That's what I'm asking. We have to get these manifestations and everything cleared up.
I don't know. I mean, let me think about that, because what about other black men who may not have been from mixed lineage, which all of us are, but what about another black man who may not be from mixed lineage who was getting with white women? He was surely not the only one. It's just that the works that they did put them in the public eye more so, but I don't think that it would have afforded him more of a opportunity or more of a right, because you had other mixed race couples at that time as well. It was forbidden, but they were still doing it.
Okay. So up here at the top are Fredrick Douglass's children, right? At the top, right? At the top. Rosetta Douglass, Major Charles R. Douglass, Lewis Henry Douglass, and Frederick Douglass Jr., right? That's at the top. Now, to the left of another young picture of Frederick Douglass is Anna Douglass, right? Now, Frederick Douglass remarries, right? Anna Douglass dies in 1882. And then next thing, 2 years later, Frederick Douglass is remarried. He had an affair, one, maybe, yeah, but we're gonna go through that, because when you start seeing the photos, when you start researching, Frederick Douglass seemed like a P-I-E-I-M-I-M-M-P, but no, more like a Mac. But look, just comical here, just comic. She dies, and 2 years later, in 1884, he marries Miss Pitts, who becomes Mrs. Pitts Douglass. What's her name? What's her full name? He marries another woman, Helen Pitts Douglass, and you see her on the right side of Douglass, right? His left, our right, by looking at it on the screen. And you see, so this is another woman that he marries after he marries his wife. Now, in between time, he's had an affair. Let's be kind. I'm going to say affair. But after she dies, it's not 2 years before he's remarried. And this marriage lasts how long?
Looks like it was 14 years, 13 years.
14
I'm sorry,
years.
it was 11. 11, I'm sorry.
It again, because your mic clicked out.
11 years.
11 years. Amazing, as there's a person says. Amazing, right? So 11 years. So he's married to his first wife for how long?
It was from, let's see, go back. So he was married to the first wife from 1838 to 1882. So that's 40-some years. Then he marries 2 years later. He marries Helen Pitts Douglass, 1884 to 1895.
But in between time, he has what we will call a common law wife with the official married wife for 28 years, right?
Right.
Now, this is an amazing affair. This is an amazing turn of events to know this about his life, right? Tracy Latrice says he didn't marry his mistress. No, because she probably went back. If you could research and tell us what happened to Assing, did she go back to Germany because she was the Negro expert? No, he did not marry the mistress. He had another woman, and I'm going to be kind here, but like I said, he comes from the line of Abraham, and Abraham had his wife, and then he had concubine, and I mean that's the way that you could look at it. But can a person who was fighting the power, 213-943-3358, who is regarded as one of the greatest Americans ever to fight to make slavery come to an end, right? Can that person have a interracial relationship? Right? Can they have an interracial relationship? 213-943-3358. What's up to Stereo? Says he's in the house. Okay, D. What's going on with you, Stereo? Listen. So these are his children up top. After his wife dies, he marries a totally different woman that he was doing the common law wife thing with. This is kind of seedy. Right? So what happened to Assing? What happened to the Assing woman?
Well, she died in Paris, France. So she had went to France and she died at age 65. She died in 1884. She died in 1884. So when he married, he married the Helen Pitts Douglass woman. It was seen after. Let me go back. So he married her in 1884. So he married her after the mistress died. He must have married her after the mistress died because she died in 1884 in Paris, France.
So he was finding a replacement. He was finding a replacement because, you know, any white woman will do. No, we have to get off this hamster. We have to get off the emotional hamster wheel. We have to get off the emotional hamster wheel here, right? So, Craig Stereo said he's calling in. Listen, we have to get off the emotional hamster wheel on this because here's a man that was fighting the power, right? He was fighting the power, and he had a common law wife. He had his wife. They were living in the house together, and on the good Lord Bird, you're going to see this. You're going to see this, and it's just like what's really happening. This brings up questions like this. This brings up a question like this, and I have to ask. Please do not get too emotional because this is a great freedom fighter, right? But we have to ask the question. I have to ask the question. You know, we have Abraham had a wife and he had concubine, right? But this conjures up because we're in America, and it conjures up images like this. Was that relationship kind of like this? Was this get more clean? I mean, was it like this? Was that relationship like this? I mean, I'm just asking. We're just putting up memes that I found. Like, what was going on with that relationship? Was this what was going on? Or was it more something like this? And here's what we're looking for. Is it something more like this? Is something more like this, right, where it says, Black wife 2, get me this man's jersey. This is a meme, right? So all of that we know of, all of Fredrick Douglass's offspring came through Anna. He made sure that his offspring came through Anna. 213-943-3358. 213-943-3358 is the number to call in. Look, Black Wife 2, get me this man's jersey, right? So he's a successful baseball player. So is this how his life actually was, that he had these things on the side? He had these things on the side, but his devotion and his means to push his existence and his seed forward was done through a black woman. What you got to say to that real quick?
That's an interesting take on that. And he may have well thought that his cause could be better served and pushed forward because he had these women in his life. Whatever was going on at that time, it could have served to put more weight in it. And I saw some even earlier pictures of him. He was a very handsome man before the long beard thing. You know, he still wasn't bad, but I mean, he was there. He was in there. He was a nice looking guy. So, you know, probably that his looks coupled with who he had on his arm, they were not very nice looking women, but they were effective in their causes, because even Helen Pitts Douglas, she was an American suffragist. Remember, we talked about that last week. She was a suffragist. So she had causes, the abolition, suffrage kind of movement seemed to be something that kind of worked well together. They seemed to be able to grab hands in their activism and move forward in that. That's what it seemed to be, because the other person was an abolitionist as well.
That's interesting, because the women's suffrage. Okay, let's put this together. See, we're putting the puzzle pieces together in the blocks. We're building this foundation. You know, we here at #ObservationsTFR, we bring information, and you have to look. So the women's suffrage movement, they wanted the black women to walk in the back. But at the same time, they were having their way with American black men like Fredrick Douglass. But Fredrick Douglass wasn't all the way black, because he had a white father. So is that an excuse, or is that a reason why you would give him a designated pass? Or why they have the black woman walking in the back? And we already showed you last week about what really the women's suffrage movement was about. So you need to go back and watch that episode. It's called American Black Suffrage, right? Where we break that down, right? Or is it that they had the black woman in the back and they could just have their way with any black man for experimental purposes, like today? Let's take the phone call. 216, you're on the line. 216, who's on the line? 216. Listen.
Hey, what's up, Dave?
Hey, what's going on? This is Stereo. What's going on with you?
Man, this Stereo. Yeah. What's happening?
What's up?
So I could be clear. Break it down for me one more time with the different women this guy dealt with. Like,
okay.
Just a little bit briefly. I could pick up.
Okay. Fredrick Douglass, while married to Anna Douglass, his black wife, had a mistress that he was in a relationship for over 28 years, living in the same house as. Turn whatever you're listening down to and listen through your headsets. I'm getting feedback. And while he's in the house with his wife and his. Okay, he's in the house with his wife and his mistress. He and his wife are married for over 40-some years. He and his mistress stayed together for 28 years. His mistress dies in Paris, France. His wife dies in 1882. His mistress dies in Paris in 1884, and he marries the new woman in 1884. Then they spend a life together. So I'm just being kind. He was from the Abrahamic way of existing, of having more than one woman. And does he, being that he's a freedom fighter, a free fighter, could he have someone else outside of his race and still be a productive free fighter?
Well, I mean, think about the question and think about the legacy. Apparently he could, because he did so much. He's done. So that question is kind of like really oxymoron, because all that he's achieved, he did it during that time and doing the things he did. So I don't see why anything will be taken away. If you judge a man by his works instead of what he's saying, then he's winning. Because his works overprove that he stood on what he stood for. But we all human beings. But at the end of the day, man's nature, and this is what people got to messed up at, man's nature is not to have one woman. If that was the case, it wouldn't be so much infidelity. That's not the way that the world works, and it's not the way nature works. If that's the case, if you want to learn about man, look at the animals. You know what I'm saying? No animal go back to the same animal to mate. Only one does, maybe two. But at the end of the day, that's not our nature. So we forcing nature that ain't even upon us to do. And this is why we get so caught up in these types of things. You know what I'm saying? Because that ain't nature for man to be with one woman. Or one woman, it's God created all this for a reason. It's an ecosystem, and as well as a way of nature and way of life. So it's impossible.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So right.
You can't fault him for that. That's just a man way. That's just nature.
Okay, so I finally got the answer that I was looking for, and thank you for calling in. But this is the next thing. I'm hearing the feedback though. So I'm finally.
Yeah, that's the news. My bad. I'm sitting in the wrong with people.
Okay. I finally.
That was my statement. You want me to?
No. Stay on the line. No. Stay on the line because I have a follow-up question. So why does? Okay. Why do the historians block this from view? If this is what it is, they only talk about Fredrick Douglass one way. He was an abolitionist. He did that. He married Anna. He had 5 children. Then he marries a woman that was an abolitionist / suffrage person, right? How come they cover up the fact that in between, and it's just now coming out now, or it's always been there, but they try to cover that aspect up? Is it that people aren't able to be nuanced and see that, okay, a man can be fighting the power, but still like what he likes, love what he loves, who he loves? Uh-oh.
Well,
yeah.
It was good PR work. You know what I mean? Everybody had a PR even back then. And they know how the public is. The public see, if you're on a platform, the public see you off that platform doing some other shit. They judge you by that. So that's all that really was. They were just trying to keep it out the way of being judged by. Because, the public is fickle like that. They with you one minute, next minute they not.
Oh, okay. I'll take that answer. Thank you, sir. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it.
You see it all the time with these stars, Nobody knew what R. Kelly did until it was brought to the public. Nobody knew how Michael Jackson was, what they thought Michael Jackson was. The same people that make you is the same people that break you, basically.
I'll take that. Appreciate you calling in. Appreciate your input. You brought the answer that I was looking for to move forward. And I appreciate that in you, Stereo.
It's always.
All right. Oh, man. Wow. I clipped them too fast, but thanks for calling in. Look, So, of course, we have a video presentation, right? So we move forward. So it is okay. So you agree, Tanya, that it is okay for a person that is a free fighter for American blacks to be free in his country, to love who he loves, be with who he wants to be with.
Yeah. Although I have despite my own choices concerning those things, I mean, it's your life, and however it is you want to live it, you live it. You know, that it's your life.
It's your life. Oh yeah, live your life, right? So look, of course we have a video presentation. I need you to look up a speech for me real quick, Tanya. I need to know exactly the year that it happened. It happened on July 5th. I just need the name. What is the 4th of July to a slave? I need to know that that's a Fredrick Douglass speech. What to the slave is 4th of July? That's the name of it. I need to know. He delivered it on July 5th, and I need to know of what year he delivered that, so that we could keep it moving, keep this moving. As we build today. Okay, wait a minute. Let me pop you in. Go ahead.
It was July 5th, 1852, in Corinthian Hall, Rochester, New York.
All right. 1852. So remember, look at what's going on during all this time that's going on. What's happening? Who's rising to power in Europe? All of this is happening at the same time. The eugenics program, the women's suffrage, all this is going on all at the same time, and all of these laws are happening all at the same time. People in 1852, American blacks were still enslaved. And slave catchers, the patty rollers, were coming into the North to try to take people back. And some people, like 12 Years a Slave, who was a free black person, was stole away to be put into slavery. All right? So all of this is going on at the same time. This is way before, 1865. The Civil War is brewing. John Brown is around. See, we're putting the context and putting all this history together for you in these last few episodes. All of this is going on. 1852, July 5th, he delivers this speech, and we have it here delivered by James Earl Jones. But of course, I do my cutting and adding in, because we have to get to know the understanding, middle standing, and overstanding of what's happening and what's in the mind of Fredrick Douglass at the time. So here we go, and I have some questions to ask, just questions. Here we go.
Before you move on,
fellow citizens.
Wait. Let me stop. Okay, what'd you say?
Before you move on, though, it's interesting to note who he was addressing in that speech. It was the Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society. That's who he was addressing in that speech. And they changed the name of it from what to the slave is the 4th of July to the Fredrick Douglass Papers.
All right, so here we go. Let's go through the speech delivered by James Earl Jones with crazy cuts in between. Here we go.
Fellow citizens, pardon me, and allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits?
A typical Creole family was a family mixed with white, black, a touch of Spanish, and in some cases a bit of Indian blood. And I think that can count a lot of New Orleans families like that. The disadvantages, because we were just a little different, some people didn't take to that. They gave us a rough time sometimes. The advantage, my daddy went into the painting business. And I hate to say it, but on many occasions, he didn't tell the people what he was. They accepted him for the way he looked. Some cases people found out later, but once you've worked for them, if they liked your work, then you would be called back. If you were real dark-skinned, often they wouldn't give you the chance to get in the front door.
Okay, so now, knowing that aspect right there. Now this is, now Fredrick Douglass was born in Maryland, right? And so was Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was born in Maryland. This is New Orleans, right? Louisiana, right? But we're talking about mixed lineage, right? And remember we talked about Plessy versus Ferguson last week. Go back and watch that episode. We're putting the pieces together. What in this speech, because we have to look where people are coming from, what in this speech is Fredrick Douglass actually lamenting? What is Fredrick Douglass in this speech actually lamenting? What is he lamenting? Is he like the Plessy who felt that he was, go watch that episode, or is he actually fighting the full black cause for the American black man and the American black woman, or is this a lament due to mixed lineage? We have to deconstruct and reconstruct, extrapolate speeches out and look at the context of the words, the phraseology. What is he saying? So as we go through this, I'm going to ask your opinion, Tanya, what you think. And then 213-943-3358. What is he actually lamenting and calling attention to in this speech about the 4th of July, besides the obvious, right?
And express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me.
Quadroons, as we call them. They are products of the Creole man and his darker woman.
I thought such marriages were against the law.
Oh, you're correct. But let me be blunt with you. A quadroon woman, she has but one goal in life, and that is to be the mistress of her Creole.
The Quadroon Ball was a small social event designed to encourage mixed-race women to form unions with wealthy white men through a system of concubines known as placage. It took place in New Orleans, Louisiana. This particular event can be traced back to the French colony of Saint Dominique. The French would carry the tradition of prostitution for women of color. The mulatto courtesans, or women of color, would meet their clients in the ball, set up as a mistress, and often profit from the union if the client dies or leave the country. Unfortunately, the women of color were entertainment for wealthy white men and was never to be married. The women were sophisticated and highly educated, but these circumstances made it difficult to find a Negro man of their status. People of color dates back as far as 1796.
People of color dates way back to 1896. People of color. We're breaking down information now. Those terms still mean the same that they meant back then they still mean the same now. It's just like in government, when you say minority in government terms means a group of people who cannot take care of themselves. And we've always said, and we continue to say, that American blacks were able to take care of themselves. They just weren't left alone. It was always a reason why a freeway went through, where an airplane came through, dropped bombs. It was always something to stop the forward progress, right? People of color still means the same thing. Women of color still means the same thing that it meant back then. That's why we should not use those terms. Someone who knows phraseology better than the layperson said put these in, and it's addressing and sending a signal about a certain group of people that will use the ignorance of those who do not fall under that category or that class to promote and push their agenda by saying people of color, free people of color, women of color. You see? So we're breaking things down. We're breaking things, we're extrapolating out and letting you see. These are why these terms should not be used by American blacks that do not have that lineage cause. See, it's a lineage cause. It's a cause. And then by saying those words, they want a certain effect. It's always cause and effect, and you see why, for some reason, the people who are not within that never seem to be able to move forward, because you're on this emotional hamster wheel. 1, 2, you don't know what's really going on. Who was Fredrick, and what was Fredrick Douglass really lamenting? What was Plessy really doing, getting on that, taking that seat on the train? What was he really doing? What you got to say to this real quick?
Well, it's obvious that they were speaking to the issue of equality or inequality, as it were, while in the case of Fredrick Douglass and his speech, he was saying, y'all celebrating, freedom with the 4th of July, and you doing all this celebrating. But for me, I'm still facing the same doors. And so that may have had a lot to do with the people that he chose to be with, the second wife and the mistress, going forward past Anna. That might have spoken to some of that, because they were able to at least get indoors and he could walk right in there with them, where he may have had to take another way, because after the thing with Plessy, it's like, so it's clear, just because you have some white blood, as long as you showing black, you consider black. That's what it is. So the privileges that you thought you may have been able to receive by having white blood was not available to you. They were not available to you. But having this particular breed of people on your arm may have afforded you a little bit more entryway into different places to speak, as it were. So that what he seems to be speaking to is the same thing that Plessy was speaking to, the fact that you haven't expected equality, but it's obvious that you don't.
And why is this covered up? It's PR, like Stereo said. But why is it covered up? Is it because people cannot use nuance and say, okay, I can take this, because the speech was taken hook, line, and sinker and moved into that it was about all American black people. Not just those of mixed lineage, but would those who are mixed lineage be probably even more upset because they felt that they should be able to walk into places because of their lineage, their mixed lineage. Let's go forward. Let's keep going here.
Referred to as light-skinned people of mixed African and European heritage. French colonists used the term gens de couleur, referring to people of mixed African and European descent who were freed from slavery in America. Children who were born of the first generation of Plagage were called mulattoes. The second generation are called quadroons, the octoroons, and so on. This process would rid the Negro blood to create what we call a Creole of color, speaking French names, and would create their own customs. During the first half of the 19th century, the quadroons were displayed in these balls which took place on the streets as Saint Philippe, at the ballroom named South St. Philippe Street. It was connected to the Old Orleans Theater and Opera House. Quadroon mistresses had their quadroon friends and amusements, and of course, the quadroon balls, but they could not.
Let's extrapolate out a little bit. Now, you saw those images. Quadroon balls. Mulattoes were first, then quadroons are second, etc., etc., etc. Debutante balls.
Stop it.
They not ready. They're not ready. So let's just keep moving forward. They're not ready. They're not ready. They're not ready for what is actually being displayed at these balls. Why do they call them balls? What type of? Anyway, let's
come on now.
Forward. Let's move forward. You see the imagery here. We're just connecting dots for you. Here we go.
Not mixed with white women, and they could not sit with them, nor could they ride carriages in the streets. Quadroon men were never allowed in either of these events.
The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. To drag a man in fetters into the grand illuminated temple of liberty and call upon him to join you in joyous anthems were inhuman mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak today? What to the American slave is your 4th of July?
Yet, as that passage from Life and Time suggests, Douglass as a subject has a much different relationship to women's history than most of the other men who have received this sort of biographical treatment. He rose to prominence in a movement and in an organization that incorporated women as behind-the-scene laborers, promoted them as front-of-the-house speakers, included them as part of a human rights vision, and spawned a separate movement for women's rights, in which he is recognized as a player.
Women's rights in the United States is spun out of what Fredrick Douglass was doing with abolition. And if you know what was happening, the right to vote was coming up, and the women then began to pull apart because they didn't want the black man to have the vote before the Caucasian woman had the vote. 15th Amendment for American black men, black women weren't included. 19th Amendment for women, black women weren't included. Not until 1965. Go back and watch the episodes. We're just laying it. We're just putting it together for you, right? So she's telling a rosy picture of it, But these women were, in my opinion, treacherous. And okay, you got so far, Negro man, but I'm gonna, and even if you got mixed lineage, we're gonna split off and make this women's suffrage movement. And he, unknowingly, I will say, thought that it was a partnership, something that was meant to be, and it would run parallel to get rights for women, the same women that were around him, because what did my sister say? He was a striking figure to any woman. Fredrick Douglass, right? So let's continue on. I mean, see, we're putting the pieces together for you. Listen to what she's saying, right? And we're gonna put the context on what she's saying.
Because women played significant roles in a common movement with him, they should occupy a large space in his history. But more than that, by excavating the women in Douglass's life from documents and rescuing them from cliché and ahistorical assumptions, historians can learn about the creative and personal ways that Douglass explored and challenged the limits on his race and of race in 19th century America. But first, however, and I will tell you here up front, just as a warning, this is not about women in the women's rights movement, or Fredrick Douglass in the women's rights movement. That, in fact, is the least interesting story about Fredrick Douglass and women. Now, women have to be excavated from his life and understood as actors with their own agency, separate from Fredrick Douglass.
Right there. The least interesting part about Fredrick Douglass and women was his involvement in women's suffrage. The least interesting part about Fredrick Douglass and women was his involvement in women's suffrage movement. Each woman had their own agency. We talk about agency a lot on the show. We say agency, having characters in films, American black characters in film that have agency. Look up the word agency real quick, Tanya. Let's give the definition of the word agency, right? See, it's very important that a character is action. It's more than what you say. Character is action, action is character. So when you do something or you produce something, it is showing your character because it is your action in what you are doing. But it is, do you produce productions, or do you produce in your life something that will bring forth agency in people, or to allow people to have agency or help them to build their agency? Because what is education but that which helps push people's agency through their release of their creativity? So, what is agency?
All right, agency is a noun. And definition number one, the office or function of an agent, the relationship between a principal and that person's agent. Meaning number two, the capacity, condition, or state of acting or of exerting power. Number three, a person or thing through which power is exerted or an end is achieved. Number four, that an establishment engaged in doing business for another. And number five, an administrative division as of government.
Looking at definition number two. Read definition, secondary definition.
The capacity, condition, or state of acting or of exerting power.
That is agency. So when you hear people talk about agency, this is what they talk about. Does the person have agency? Does the character in the film have agency, or are they running around? The difference between Fatal Attraction and Fatal, I forget the other film that just came out, was that the black characters did not have agency, but the the white characters in Fatal Attraction did. They had agency. The wife had agency. The man had agency. In the other Fatal something with, I forget, we thumbs down. They ran around aimlessly while the killer was coming after them. They had no agency. So it's all in how you write people. Do they have agency to exert? Do they have the ability and even the desire to exude power to change conditions? And that's what it is. Let's continue on.
For example, let's look at the three women occupying the traditional woman behind the man roles. His mother, Harriet Bailey, his first wife, Anna Murray, and his second wife, Helen Pitts. The first two present conundrums for biographers because they were such critical figures in Douglass's life, and yet each left little or nothing behind to understand her own experience. The third arrived far enough into his fame and fortune that no one questioned her appearance nor expressed much curiosity about her beyond the fact of her whiteness. Yet biographers abdicate their responsibility and miss a very fascinating element of Douglass's life if they do not try to understand these women as leading players in their own lives. And this, of course, is the context for the way he cared about his family with Anna, including this extended kin, the fugitive slaves, the orphans, and all of the other people that they absorbed as part of their extended family. So the violence enacted on Harriet made her son as much a man rectifying the damage done to his family as it did an orphan building himself into a self-reliant race leader. As for Anna Douglass, the woman who he turned to in creating this new black family, well, Rosetta Douglass Sprague, that is Anna and Frederick's daughter, admitted that Anna could not be known all at once.
For some context, so she speaks to the mother, to Fredrick Douglass's mother first, and how she was not a person that had agency, and he being orphaned because he beats up his father and he escapes to freedom at age 20. That is a broken family dynamic, but once he meets Anna years down the road, the connection of building a family, a middle-class structured family is what we're going to go into next, right? So stay with this. This is great context to what we're talking about here. And listen to how Anna, who, again, plays the back instead of being side by side, right? Side by side. She is the person behind the man instead of the person standing beside the man, then moving forward with the children. So let's see how this is described here.
She had to be studied. She's been both much maligned and much valorized, but very seldom truly studied, except perhaps through, like, poets have done a really good job. Nadzi Kita has a lovely volume of poems about her, told from her point of view, in which you get this amazing view of Anna. But I digress. So by the time Anna met Frederick, she was well into adulthood at approximately age 26, roughly. She had a position as a housekeeper at which she earned her own wages, and she was setting aside items for a dowry, although her prospects for marriage were quite slim in a city in which black women like herself outnumbered all black men.
She had agency. Anna had agency. She was putting together her own dowry. You know what a dowry, look up dowry so people will know what a dowry is. Look up dowry. She was putting aside her own dowry so that when the man that would ask for her hand in marriage would automatically have a bank to begin with. But what's a dowry? A woman's dowry. Something usually that a father gives the prospective suitor who is taking his daughter's hand in marriage after they are married. Go ahead.
It is the money, goods, or estate that a woman brings to her husband in marriage.
Say it again. Say it again.
A dowry is the money, goods, or estate that a woman brings to her husband in marriage.
And you see, she had agency. So to draw her as a person who did not have agency is really a disservice to Anna Douglass. Let's continue on.
Slave or free. Marriage to Fredrick, who was a slave, was a risk for herself, for any children she hoped she might have, and for her own future. Marriage to Anna, on the other hand, meant marriage to a woman who brought with her wages, money that was her own, and skills that would make a good wife and mother, not to mention free status for her children. So think of the first image that Douglass offered of the married couple, fresh from their vows in 1838 in New York City as they turned towards New Bedford. He writes, "I shouldered one part of our baggage, and Anna took up the other, and we set out forthwith."
So, when did they get married? Look up when Fredrick Douglass and Anna Douglass were married. Let me know when you have it. So, he shouldered one half, she shouldered the other. They went off to make it happen, right? He was a slave, a runaway slave. She was a free woman of color, right? And together they came and made the bond. So when was she married? When were they married?
September 15th, 1838.
1838. So we're seeing what's happening here as we go through. So let's continue on with this. This is interesting, very interesting.
He and Fredrick began their marriage together as partners. Okay, a working class couple. They started a family within a year, living in a free black community in the North where in New Bedford they could educate their children and hope for a better life than anything they would have ever found in Fells Point, Baltimore, Maryland. And while they probably did not wake up every morning and think we're going out there to fight the man with our family, you know, they just probably woke up and said, how are we getting through today? But, you know, simply living this life was a refutation of all the racist ideas of African Americans being incapable of forming enduring family ties. Their family together stood in opposition to the violence done to their own families of origin, both of them divided by slavery, even when, like the Murrays, some of them were free. This became more important to project as Fredrick's fame grew, and even well-meaning white abolitionists expressed overly intrusive curiosity about their daily lives, like, ooh, a black family? A black middle-class family? Ooh, let's go see. Like, yeah, mind your own business. And Anna actually became the protector of this privacy, as their daughter, Rosetta, their neighbor in Rochester, Jane Marsh Parker, and their granddaughter, Frederica Sprague Perry, described Anna as protective of this privacy, both Douglass's individual and the family's in general. According to Parker, Anna acted as a wholesome check on her husband's proneness to be imposed upon, including nosy little neighbor girls.
So you see, the nosiness, you know, how often do you say that, you know, Caucasian people are nosy? Like, you're out doing something and here they come asking you some kind of questions. or they're just you're having a conversation and they step into the conversation. These are things that are within history that are known, and she says, mind your own business, right? Please, Karen, please, Sue, mind your own business. Don't step into our business. We're going about our lives. We don't need you to step in and do. So listen, just a way, this middle-class American black family that was being built, it seems like there were people coming to try to get in the way and to drive a wedge to break up this family. Do you see that? So let's continue on. This is interesting.
According to, so by developing her biography, Anna's role in Douglass's life becomes more nuanced, especially as they together engaged in this politics of respectability and demanded the same privileges as white families. Okay. And likewise, many of the features of her life considered unfeminist by later generations probably held different meanings for Anna. Her reputed domesticity not only countered the slovenly stereotypes of African Americans, but also came as a privilege few other black women could enjoy as their only occupation. She was able to care for her own home and her own children rather than someone else's, and that would have been a feature of a future she faced in Baltimore and even in the black northern working class. So Fredrick's ability to provide her with that privilege spoke to his success as a man. Now, whereas their marriage and their family was characterized by kind of a defense of this privacy, his second marriage was characterized by publicity, where Anna and Fredrick had taken pains to ward off prying eyes. Helen and Fredrick Douglass, in his words, set the world ablaze with indignation when they married, and they were very happy to do so. Now, Helen Pitts, very few people know much about her, but she had grown up in a family of abolitionists who founded a church in Honeoye, New York. And Honeoye is this like a crossroads south of Rochester, way south of Rochester in New York. And their church had invited William Goodell to be their preacher, and William Goodell had absolutely no qualifications to be a minister, but he was an abolitionist.
I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days of the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is a constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty, an unholy license. Your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes that would disgrace a nation of savages. There's not a nation of the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour forth a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder, We need the storm, the whirlwind, the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and the crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced.
All right. So that's his speech from July 5th, day after 4th of July. Now, Fredrick Douglass used to take pictures by himself. You know, he had a lot of pictures, but then when the time came, boy, look at this. Now we're going to town here, right? We're going to town here. So the reason why, you see this, you know, in there, look at how adoring she's looking at him. He's got his beard. He's got his gray whiskers now, right? He's distinguished, coming in now into the autumn of his life, I would say it is, and they've set the world ablaze, right? So the question is, there's a couple of questions. Knowing this history, right, you know, just on the psychology of things, right? Knowing the full history, because we broke down everything. Knowing what happened with Fredrick Douglass and his successes, does this meme still stand to reason? Don't trust no black person that trusts white people. That's law. Don't trust no black person that trusts white people. That's law. So what do you think about that?
It's so many variables in that it's hard to speak to it because there's so many variables. You would have to have had a conversation with him or somebody current day who has that kind of notoriety behind closed doors to actually see what it is that they're actually thinking in the connections that they made with these people. I suspect that some people would think that, there's a scripture that says that every man's way seems right in his own eyes. And my suspicion is that the person, Fredrick Douglass and others of the like, would in their earnestness think that they were doing a good thing, no matter what that thing was, like what the end goal was that they were trying to accomplish. The way that they were going about that, they seen it in their own eyes as the way to do it, seemingly. But, you know, so we're staying away from the emotional part of it. But here's my thing. You spoke to the treachery of these women. And that's my thing. Just by personal experience, I've seen a lot of things regarding in the workplace, regarding dealing with a certain race of people. And that thing that you just said about cutting in on a conversation and inching the way in, that is still something that is an innate type of rudeness. Because I personally experienced that with more than one person of Caucasian persuasion during the time I worked in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm in a conversation with somebody, another Caucasian, and this other one walks up and just starts talking to him. Like I'm not even in a conversation. I'm not in a conversation. So because I would address it, because that would set me ablaze, because it was rude. Not even saying excuse me. Just come in and walk up to them and start talking like I'm not even there. Like we're not even having a conversation. And I say, excuse me, you're supposed to excuse yourself when you enter into a pre-existing conversation. Sorry. But then what made it worse is the person that they came up and talked to, who was also Caucasian, didn't check them either. They turned and started holding a conversation with them as if me standing there having a conversation with you at the first didn't matter. So and I noticed that I observed that for a couple of years, and I said, man, this is part of their character. This is part of their character. So when you think of, there's some people, they might get mad, they might take me to task, they might say, oh, you're spouting off reasons for hatred and dislike. No, I'm giving you facts. Now, don't get mad at the facts. These are facts. So when I think about this and I look at the history of Fredrick Douglass and look at this meme here, you have to give that some weight. You have to give it some weight because of the character, because of the repeated history, because of how things, here we are, some of the same issues that was addressed in his speech back on July 5th, in that year that he did, I think that was 1852. So some of the same things that he was addressing about being the matter of inequality for entryways into things, we are still in that same place. You want to know why? Because money talks. And here we are. It all leads up to the end goal of, we've been talking about our reparations. See, when you're standing in a certain financial status, your voice is heard because you got the financial status. You understand? If you don't have anything, the name of the game is capitalism. The name of the game is money. So if you don't have that, or you don't have a reasonable amount of it, then you don't have the not bargaining power, but the power to do the things that you need to do. That is, if that were not so, it wouldn't be such a big deal in us being paid our reparations. It wouldn't be, because soon as we get them, it reorganizes or replaces us in a different position. It puts us in a different position of power, right? In this government. So we have to, when we lock hands with people, it's got to be people who are like-minded and about our cause, that don't co-opt another cause. See, we can't cross cause. At this time, there is no cross, for lack of a better word, it applies to something else, but cross-pollination of causes. There was, we cannot lock hands and cause. No, I don't want to hook up with the LGBTQ cause. No, I don't want to lock hands. I don't want to blend my cause with the feminist cause. No, I don't want that. I want my plate to be sitting in its own position to be addressed. I don't want it to be floating in. I don't want something to slide in with it like they did the civil rights movement. I don't want nothing else sliding in with this cause. So in order to keep the cause pure, you got to keep the people of the cause pure. You got to keep it in. What I mean by that is, you can't listen. People with other agendas, oh, we can band together. We can lock together and we can make this work. But it always ends up that our stuff gets phased out of the process somehow. I don't know. It's really interesting how our stuff just gets pushed to the back burner. And so now everybody's celebrating rights. That's what Fredrick Douglass was talking about. You celebrating freedom. I'm not free. You might not be beating me anymore, but I don't have the economic status. I have some things going on, but until my people as a whole is walking in this this privilege, then we're not free. Y'all celebrating and dancing and shooting off firecrackers and honoring the Statue of Liberty, who is a witch. You honoring the Statue of Liberty, who is a witch that was imported in from France. It was given to you as a gift with all kinds of inscriptions on it that speaks to witchcraft on the inside of it. And you're honoring that, and you're idolizing that and celebrating. I don't have nothing to celebrate about. And here it is. That was the 1800s. We're past the 1900s. We're in the 2000s. 20 years in to the 2000s with the same thing. And you are in a straight betwixt about voting.
Okay. Don't trust no black person that trusts white people. That's law. Now, here's an example of something that happened that is really Tyson Fury's trilogy bout with Deontay Wilder is abandoned to leave path for the blockbuster heavyweight unification fight with Anthony Joshua, a British black at Wembley next spring. Now, Deontay Wilder helped to bring Tyson Fury back from obscurity because Tyson Fury, from what the reports were, he was on drugs. Now remember, everything that we say is our opinions because it's our observations here on the show, right? But he helped to bring Tyson Fury back by building a fight up. Deontay Wilder wins the first fight. Fury isn't known to have knockout power. Ooh, they're putting the warnings up here. He's not known to have knockout power, and it said that they pulled the horsehair from out of the glove, and he might have had a steel instrument inside one of the gloves, like a bell, which bust Deontay Wilder's eardrum and has left a permanent dent in his head. Here's a man who gave a man a comeback chance, did a rematch with him to make it clear who won, and the guy appears to have cheated and caused damage to this American black man who only gave him a chance, who his handlers are Caucasian, Deontay Wilder's. He trusted this Caucasian to come in. He trusted his handlers to check the gloves. They didn't do that. And so this is an example of how trusting a Caucasian can get you boogered up to the point that you will be. This guy gives him opportunity, and how he returns the favor is to try to potentially kill him in the ring, or to put him out of boxing. Which brings us here, right? Which brings us here on this meme right here. Because, we're talking about the Fredrick Douglass affair. He got his, but did we get ours? I mean, he lived nice, he lived his life out nice. Now, this is just our opinions and observations, but here it is. When you put trust in things. So this person wrote this. Now, I would, change some words, but here it is. Here it is. I wouldn't say African, but anyway, that's me. African spirituality is not witchcraft. It's pretentious and arrogant to think that God only revealed himself to the white man. Just because you refuse to understand, it doesn't mean it's evil. African spirituality is not witchcraft. It's pretentious and arrogant to think that God only revealed himself to the white man. Just because you refuse to understand, it doesn't mean it's evil. And we're talking about trust and trusting in things. We are in a system that has been created by a certain group of people, and the rules of the game are created by a certain group of people. And what do you have to say about that meme? We're going through trust. We're talking about the Fredrick Douglass affair. Fredrick Douglass did all that. His wife dies. He gets with now Caucasians, and for some reason, nothing actually moved forward after that point. It was diverted into different directions. So what do you have to say to that, and what do you have to say to the meme?
I mean, he should have been able to recognize where progress stopped once he he grabbed hands with certain people, and that's one thing that has always lacked with a lot of American blacks, is that we're not sensitive to a change of the climate. We're not sensitive to when the spirit moves, or when the favor of a thing has run its course. You understand? So looking at this African spirituality is not witchcraft. It's pretentious and arrogant to think that God only revealed himself to the white man. Just because you refuse to understand it doesn't mean it's evil. I agree with that. I agree with it, because we understand that, or some of us do, that by some of the books that were not included in the canon of scripture, and what they were considered esoteric books, which spoke to the supernatural parts of what Christ was teaching regarding kingdom. That alone, the fact that those books were not included, the fact that they have all kinds of excuses, the fact that there was 45 books that were found in, over 45 books found in 1945 that initially Constantine and his boys thought were destroyed, because he commanded that they be destroyed because of the information that was in them. They were found. Somebody had the forethought of putting those in a vase and burying it. And they found those scrolls in 1945. So a lot of those books are available, and a lot of them are speaking to supernatural things, supernatural practices and things like that, which undoubtedly Christ probably picked up from these other lands. Nobody ever questioned the fact that between the ages of 18 and 30, the Bible is silent about what Christ was doing. My surmising is that he was traveling in different lands and learning different things that was applicable to the cause of the kingdom. So with African spirituality, now we do know that hoodoo and voodoo, they're two different things. Those things, witchcraft is in essence accessing something before time, according to your will, and not God's will, and things that you may not be ready for, which is the reason why they're not coming to you. The development of God within you is what makes you ready to receive some of the things you desire. You have to be ready to receive those things, and that's an inner thing. So I mean, there was once a point in time I would have looked at that and said whatever, and blew it off and said some other stuff. But actually, that's true. If you don't understand something, there's a lot of stuff that's left out of mainline Christianity and other religions that do not put the pieces, do not connect the dots. And so you'll find some things in African spirituality that does connect the dots. You will. And it is arrogant to think that God only revealed himself to one group of people. That is arrogant.
That is arrogant, right? Which brings us to the next meme right here. This meme was interesting, and it goes right along with everything that we were talking about, right? Because what I noticed just by researching Fredrick Douglass after discovering this, I knew that he was married. His second wife was Caucasian woman, right? I didn't know that he had a mistress, to be kind, a mistress, one, just to be kind. I didn't know that, right? That lived in the same house. I mean, that is like, wow, Whoa. I didn't know that, right? I didn't know that, and that was buried, but the good Lord Bird exposed it. You should watch that show, because it's going to be shown in, within one of the episodes or a few episodes. It's going to be a storyline, right? Now, it just appears that looking at this, that this turns and changes something. Whenever there is a Caucasian involved, the direction of the movement shifts. What have we been telling you about the anarchists and the accelerationists, and then the anarchists and accelerationists joining together under BLM and the Proud Boys, right? Well, we've been telling you, and so this is something that weaves throughout our story within this history, that we have to get over the hump. Got to get over the hump. Got to get over the hump. Got to get over the hump. And you can jump on from. Protect yourself. It's in the music. It's in the music. Protect yourself. Baby. Come on, man. It's in the music. People took in the white man's drugs and got blown out with it. They did the drugs so you didn't have to, but listen to the music so that you could hear the way forward. It's in the music. You're not listening. Next meme, which this is interesting here, and I thought it was interesting. Let me bring it center so everybody can see it, so it won't be cut off in the image. Okay. So why is everyone so scared of the quote-unquote devil when God is the one killing everyone in the Bible? So why is everyone so scared of the devil when God is the one killing everyone in the Bible? What do you say?
Okay, so now we're speaking of testaments. So the devil wasn't spoke much of in the Old Testament as much as he was in the New Testament. He wasn't spoken of not much past Genesis, when we were talking about the serpent in the garden. A lot of people interchange those terms, devil, serpent, whatever, Satan. They interchange the terms and the names. But God was killing people in the Old Testament who operated in disobedience. The problem with man is that prior to his understanding, he leans to his own understanding a lot. And so look at why, in what instance God was killing people in the Bible. Most of the time it was people who were operating outside the things that he had put in place and used the prophets to speak to the people to put in place. It was disobedience, worship of other gods, things like that got people killed. Attacking the wrong people, that got people killed. So that sounds good, and it is coming from a certain frame of thought. As far as being scared of the devil, I don't know. I mean, I'm not scared of the devil, even when he manifests through different people and in different ways. And I've seen quite a few supernatural things. I'm not scared of the devil. So if anyone is afraid, it's people who don't have an understanding of who they are and who God is in them. If anybody's afraid.
In your estimation, does the devil kill? Does the devil kill in the Bible? And are there examples where the devil kills? We know the devil is a whisperer, and he suggests to human beings through demons to move in schizophrenic action into psychosis, into doing different things. But does he kill in the Bible? Does that stand? Does that phraseology there stand? So why is everyone so afraid of the devil when God is the only one killing everyone in the Bible? Does the devil kill in the Bible?
No, man kills. Man kills at the devil's influence. So, I mean, man actually is responsible on both sides, because if you've been given a directive, like we have the laws of the United States of America, we have access to know what those laws are. If you don't know, you know when you break one of them. All right. So you break one of them and you get the death penalty. You basically killed yourself because you violated a law. It's the same thing with God in the Old Testament. You violated a law. So you violated the law and that got you killed. You basically did that yourself. You got to take responsibility for that. Those people had to take responsibility for that. But devil ain't killing nobody. Man is killing people at suggestions and not keeping his spirit locked with God.
Now we're getting somewhere, right? So listen. We have a celebration. We have a official blue check on a website, right? We have official blue check in a website. Do you know that Myanmar used to be Burma? I did a report on Burma in social studies in the 7th grade at Whitney M. Young Junior High School. I did a report on that, right? And their website is called Pod Notes, right? And it gave us an official blue check. We have an official blue check coming out of Myanmar because the Myanmar people in Burma, I'm just gonna say Burma, that's what it is. You can go search it on the map. It's in the east, are listening to what we are saying here at the Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, Society podcast, and hashtag observations TFR. So in closing, people, can a person that is into liberation of American black people have interracial relationship? Yes, but it's just like the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. The one that is doing the stroking in the bed is the one that gives the closest and the most heated of suggestion. So you remember that, right? Because I can just look at the photos and I can see that Fredrick Douglass was by himself in photographs. But by the end of his life, much like Solomon, what happened to Solomon? Solomon was the most wise man. His mother told him, don't mess with women from strange lands. What happened when Solomon was older? He began to deal with women from foreign lands and women who even dealt in what would be considered witchcraft. That's for your determination or whatever. But he messed with women from different lands. What you say? Wait a minute. Let me unplug. What you say?
They dealt in the cunning arts.
Okay, there we go. So, people, you have to stay clear on your goals and your purpose, because as I look at this picture, he is to the left, right, of the image. So people read from left to right. So he's still the focus member, but the Caucasian women are taking up a lot of space, whereas Fredrick Douglass would stand by himself in pictures. He's the first guy. He's the first selfie guy, as his great grandson. Now, Natalie Washington Douglass. Here's a fun fact before we close out. Natalie Washington Douglass is the great granddaughter of Fredrick Douglass and the great granddaughter of Booker T. Washington. Her mother, Natty Hancock Washington, married her father, Fredrick Douglass III. They met on the college campus and were married, and the two families merged and they moved forward. There's a great grandson out there that's in head of the Fredrick Douglass Foundation now for human rights. You know, just a fun fact that it kept going, and the line, he chose consciously to make the line through American Black Line. When it came time to party, though, he decided he would party with. She died, so he married a replacement. In my opinion, just observations and opinions. But remember, stay on task because you can be diverted off a task like Solomon. What would you like to say? Close out. We got 5 minutes. 2:50.
It's going to be very imperative that you stand for something. Else you either fall for anything or you just a sitting duck to be moved, or a pawn to be moved around. I've said that before. And we're in a time where, and I know some people might take this the wrong way, but listen, you want to know, get at me. I'm on Facebook and on Instagram. If you want to reason with me, I will do that. Debate and argue, I do not, but I will reason with you about what I say. We have to get focused on our goal. First of all, know what our goals are, and then get focused in them and not allow ourselves to be infiltrated. Relationship is relationship. Look, it's your business, who you love, but understand that your life has to be the priority of purpose. Once your life has become the priority of purpose, every subsequent decision that you make outside of that has to contribute towards it. So for me, as a Black female, American Black female, I don't entertain the possibilities of dating white men or any other nationality. I'm with my brothers because I'm too knowledgeable and too strong with it to step outside of it. Because if me, who has the juice, defects from the cause of the Black man, then I'm really basically nothing. I phase on into obscurity because my purpose here would be frustrated and not fulfilled, because my purpose is connected to who I am as a Black female. So I don't entertain no other race for dating, marrying, anything like that. Not because I don't hate them, but we have a cause that I identify with, and I'm going to identify with it till the day I die. That's just what it is. And so you're going to have to get resolute in your ways of approaching things and approaching life. Your life priority has to be your purpose. And every subsequent decision has to line up and feed back into that purpose. And that's basically all I have to say today.
All right, people. So remember, Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. It's #observations TFR. On Sundays at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, it's the Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, Society Podcast. #TFR Podcast Live, right? We bring reviews of movies and information, how it ties into the culture and the politics and the society. And on this show, we bring you information. This is episode 34. Episode 34. That's 68 hours. That's 68 hours of information. Go back. Get your notebooks. Go through. We are connecting dots here. We bring it the way that you won't hear it anyplace else. It's for you to get off that hamster wheel. Get off. Change the inertia. Slow the electrical inertia down to get off. Use your inertia to get off the hamster wheel in that mindset. Anyone who tries to give you a mindset to make you a drone, like that's the way that it's going to go for you to succeed, they are coons. You have to have a mind state, be able to extract facts, catch, analyze, shoot the facts, be able to bring the facts so you can make your mind state to advance. What is education? We talk about it all the time. Go back. So episode 1 through episode 34. Tomorrow we'll be back with another great episode, episode 35 of #Observations TFR by Crazy D with my special guest host, my sister Tanya M. Congress. We'll see you tomorrow on another episode.
Here's something about your movie, why I made the curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Community, heart, 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 heart,